It's a great question. 2 of the 7 characteristics really jump out. The first one is persistence. You've got to just, even on days you don't feel like doing it, you got to do it. I mean, I fly out tomorrow. I came home from this interview for about a day and a half. We get right back on the plane. And a big part of the reason to come home was to be on the show. It's like you made the commitment, you made the date, you get your butt back to Michigan, you tape, and then tomorrow you're up at 4 a.m. to be on an airplane to go to Arizona for an event. So it's persistence. It's when you feel like some days, I don't feel like showing up, you show up. And that consistency is a draw. It's attractive because so many people, well, how you make these assumptions. I see it, Pamela. I travel. I watch, people are flaking out more than ever. And if you are somewhat consistent and persistent and keep showing up, you have a huge advantage because eventually people go, hire him. He just keeps showing up. Or we need to bring this guy in because he keeps mailing us stuff. He has a new idea. He's got a fresh perspective. You don't quit on the first no.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. The spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, nonprofits, individuals that can help us thrive in our lives. Well, today we are back in the studio. This is season 7. I'm so excited for Grand Tap Media and for all you that have watched Grand Tap Media on WKTV, GRTV, and WCET in West Michigan. Well, we have a great guest today. We are going to have a great conversation with somebody that I have been on my show probably about 3 times. I always have him back 1 time a year just so I can get caught up on what's going on because he travels, he's on television, he writes books, he does networking events, he did the TED Talk, and I just want to know what's going on in the country, what's people's feelings, what's business, what's new, what's exciting, what's old. And so he is here today to talk about all of that and to bring back his book that he's had out since 2018. It's Trailblazers, which is still relevant today, but we want to get the updates on what's going on in business and in life with Toni Rubleski.
Well, good to see you, my friend. Thank you. That's a lot.
Thank you for being on my show. I love having you on my show because I learned so much from you, and I just know that with your traveling and what's going on, you're a little bit further down the road than what I am sometimes. But then sometimes, you know what, I kind of surprise you like I did earlier. Yes. And you're like, wow, you're pretty up on it. I'm like, well, I'm trying.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be back. Congrats on season 7.
Thank you.
And I love coming back here. We'll shuffle, travel around to get here because I like you as a friend, as a good human, and you are a trailblazer, a leader, which is what we're going to talk about today. But no, never a dull moment, especially in the world we're in now, my friend.
Oh, and I know. I mean, that was the reason when we connected a few weeks back. I'm like, you just got to come on my show and start talking about what's going on because I think that a lot of people are out there, but they really don't know what to do and how to move it in a world of what the Trailblazer talks about. It's just the mind capture of trying to get attention.
Yeah.
You understand that, right? In this world of now TikTok and YouTube channels and podcasting, and this is when you wrote the book that TikTok and all that YouTube channels weren't huge,
really.
Right?
Yeah, wasn't really around.
And everybody's like, do I write a book still? I mean, you get these questions, and sometimes, you know what? You're out there talking to people that are your mentors, saying this is what's coming down the road in the next couple years. Jump on it and start moving towards it, and you always do. So I learned so much. So let's talk about, you know what you've been doing real quickly, and why did you bring this back out? What did you hear in the public? What's going on?
Well, what's happened, Pamela, is the last probably 18 months there's been a real call for people to say, get in here, get on a plane, talk about leadership.
Right, everybody wants that.
And it just, when the book came out in Charter #1 back in late 18, we were ready to go on a tour in 19, then COVID happened. So when you and I first met around the pandemic in 2020 early, you couldn't give away that book. You couldn't really talk about it because it was such a different world. That was only 5 years ago. So what's happened, I think the swing back is, I always say, where have all the leaders gone? They're there. They're having a tough time getting through all the noise, keeping people motivated like you and I do, and no one's got a silver bullet. So whoever's watching this, as we time shift, someone's going to see excerpts of this maybe a month from now, 6 months, or a year from now, or 5 years from now. The whole goal is to realize that no one's got the silver bullet to solve it all. No one does. There's so much disruptive innovation going on. I call it positive disruption, a book we talked about a few times.
Yeah, that you were on last year talking about.
So we
yes.
just go, how do we try to maintain? We do the best we can. And the simplest advice I can give to start out to grab the listeners and the viewers is no one's got to figure it out, but you work at a day at a time. And I call it gradual progression. You've got to be motivated. And you and I talked before we turned the camera on is how do you pivot? And that's one thing I feel like, 20 years now in business full-time, unemployed, self-employed.
Yeah, really.
Book number 10 is being edited. We're starting 11 right now. But I feel like I'm constantly reinventing because I enjoy it, and I can't get too comfortable. The game is moving so fast that to pivot, as you would say, you have to. So it's being flexible. Doesn't mean you have to know it all, that you have to figure out, because you can never figure out how much change we're going through as a society globally right now. We've never seen it. You indicated before it was probably the best parallel or analogy might be at the beginning of the 20th century. We went from the farm to the factory.
Right.
But even there, which was different, you had something to go towards that was going to be stable and wasn't going to be uprooted for many, many decades. Now we're kind of like this ship that's maybe for many leaders, it's kind of floating in the ocean. Where's the rudder to lead it? And the leaders that men and women that aren't afraid are going to have people flock to them because it's so hard to find it right now. I call them trailblazers. Those leaders that are paving the trail, they're looking out, they're saying, hey, I see something. With all the barking dogs, as Winston Churchill used to talk about, if you stop and throw a stick at every barking dog, you get nothing done. And the amount of distraction, which I'm sure we'll talk about, is mind-blowing. From when I wrote the first book 20 some odd years ago to now, the amount of input and data and the shortened attention span and people wanting to be heard is at an epidemic level.
Well, and everybody wants a 5-minute video to solve their problems.
Yeah.
You get that, right? But let's just stay on leadership right now, because it is a huge topic. People are looking for leadership. I think where they all went, even though you say they're there, but maybe they haven't came forward, right, as leaders, or maybe they don't even know, because we really have been, even though we went through, 20 years of a war, but it really didn't affect our lives as much as like a World War II and whatever. Yeah. Where those leaders and my husband and people that are now passed because it's World War II, right?
Yep. Greatest generation.
But they emerged. They came back and it said, hey, if you can, if you can live through this, you can be leader. And I don't really see people doing that today. I don't. What is going to get us disrupted? Is that the right word?
It's a very powerful question. It's a big macro, and the best I can do, because I don't have the absolute answer to it, it's also an individual choice. There are some leaders out there that are shining. There are many that are kind of hiding in the shadows. And I think for companies to stay relevant, that can adapt to the change, the AI world, the short attention span, the people wanting to be heard, and coming out of the last 5 years was a twilight zone. We're still, I believe, processes. I travel the country, primarily the U.S. I do some international Zoom work. But people are like, what's going on?
Right, PDS. They still think
and it's like, we were joking before we went on air that, it feels like the last 6 years has been 4 lifetimes. The last 6 years before COVID started to 2025, and as we now are approaching midway through the year, you look at it and go, it doesn't seem like there's any slowdown. It seems like it's speeding up. We all feel like we're behind many days. And I think the simplest thing is, look at what you're into, find a way that you can pursue it with a passion and have a joy in it. And it's an individual choice. And I get asked by the CEOs and vice presidents and managers at all levels and even new hires, what do I do? I can't answer that for you. What are you passionate about? What can you do that you can turn into something you can monetize, something that you can work and get paid for? But it's an individual choice. Or go to an organization that has a vision that you get behind, that you're passionate, you believe the leader. Because I joke, where have all the leaders gone?
Right.
Because a lot of them hid underneath their desks from 2020 to 2023. A lot of leaders hid. And here's what we're starting to see. Not many have apologized. From politics to academia to corporate America, for-profit, nonprofit, many of them will sit there and act like nothing happened.
Exactly.
And their employees are going, what is going on? At least say, hey, here's what we learned from it. Hey, we made a mistake. We apologize. What a novel idea. Let's move on. But I think a lot of people are still kind of ticked off. I'm a positive guy, but I'm a realist as well.
Right.
You can't hide the fact that something's off still. And it's going to get more and more, I believe, the next year to 2 years, even crazier.
Well, it's like an injustice that happened. And we, a lot of people, I mean, you were like, we became close friends because our business pretty much dried up.
Stopped.
You had speaking engagements all over the country.
Yep.
You were traveling. You were doing great, and all of a sudden everything stopped in 24 hours, which we never have seen before.
Yep.
Right? And I had the same situation. I had, I was on this great opportunity, and I was just thriving, and we met, and all of a sudden it's over.
Yeah.
And you saw me in my new office and whatever. This is like a dream job.
Yep.
A lot of people didn't come back from that, and I think we're still mourning that we allowed this to happen. And then all of a sudden, what does it look like now? You're back into, maybe you're back into selling or whatever. But I've heard over and over again of people that, like us, said, yeah, it's still not the same. It may never be the same, but what does that look like for the future? So when you're dealing with an organization and say, look, there's something I can't really describe that's happening since 20. And 20 is not that, it's
Not that
5
far
years,
away.
Toni.
Yeah.
It's 5 years.
And I think the thing is to learn the lessons is it's a place of reference, not a place of residence. So we learn from it to refer back, but we don't live in 2020. But the challenge is, how do you learn from it so it doesn't happen again, hopefully? This is public access, and this is going to go over the world. I'll say some controversial things. I do it when I'm live. Most small businesses got knocked out.
Yeah.
They took them completely out. And you don't see a lot of small businesses
restaurants.
protesting. Yeah, and I had a lot of friends myself. It took us 2-3 years to recover our incomes, and many of us didn't make it. We either jumped out, we retired, got in different career paths. So there is still a lot of stinging that a lot of the larger corporations got PPP money, never had to pay it back, and got bigger and grew stronger. So I'm not going to play conspiracy theory here.
Yeah.
People do your research, but the facts don't lie. Small business got decimated. With AI coming online, it'll probably get decimated more. And I'm saying, in spite of, what are you going to do in spite of that? You can't change it. Do you start something new that feeds into the changes we're going into? Do you reinvent? Because a lot of small business owners fail many times before they become successful. You don't just say, all right, my life's over, my business failed during COVID. Well, you got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back on your feet and go, where is a service that people need that they will pay value for? And it's changing so fast that you can't just set it up and say it's going to last 20 years or more, because everything's moving too quick. But if you're finding different ways to solve people's problems, you have a better chance. The attitude to me is everything. I mean, people are drawn to energy. If I were a grumpy motivational speaker, I don't think I'd be very successful, and I wouldn't even want to listen to it, let alone tell people what I think they should do. I give them recommendations. I'm in the reminding business.
And I will tell you,
Yeah.
you got me through, you were able to get me through 20 because, we didn't have a lot of lifelines.
Yeah.
That people, without telling you all the negative things.
Yeah.
Like the latest thing that's, that was going on, in which there was plenty of things to be concerned about in 20.
Yeah.
But I still remember driving down the freeway and, devastated that, nobody's on the freeway. You remember those days,
Yeah.
right? It was just short. There was hardly any cars. You're driving, getting to some place where you had. I was still working, but I was on furlough. It wasn't able to. So anybody out there, I was still getting out there trying to make it work, but I had to put everything on pause and try to make it work. But anyways, and I still remember you talking to me on the phone, and you're just finally, you're just like, Pamela, wake up. Or you're just going to have to get a therapist, because we're all surviving out here. We're all trying to get through it. I still remember that. I'm thinking, okay, where I was draining my friends too much, because I was looking for a lifeline.
Yeah.
And needed somebody that could assure me that, okay, just got to ride it out and
Yeah.
just start taking the steps, in which you did. But you did have to kind of wake up.
Yeah, and I have coaches that coach me, and I've sat in many therapist chairs, and there's plenty of books out there. So if you can't find a therapist, you can't afford it, there's plenty of resources online. There's books out there. There's so much free content. There's tons of YouTube channels. But it's really curating what is going to lift you up versus constantly bring you down. And I watch different podcasts on YouTube, so I understand a lot of the playbook as a marketing geek. It's designed to get your attention with negativity. My thing is, okay, that's great, but what are the solutions? Who's going to solve these problems? It's easy to go online and whine, a lot of talk radio.
Exactly.
Podcasts get you all scared, but where's the solution involved? And at the end of the day, who controls our life? We have to have self-governance, reliance on ourselves. Doesn't mean that we have communities. You have to have that to be successful. I have teams of publishers, teams that help me do my speaking dates, people that hire me. It's not just the Toni show. There's people that believe in what I do, and I have to do my best, no matter what's going on in my personal life, to block it out like everybody else and deliver a message of value, even for people who don't like me. They go, well, he got me thinking differently. He provoked me some questions. he asks me, he challenges me when I'm doing a live presentation or Zoom to question everything I tell you. Most presenters in my space, personal development, it's my way or the highway.
Right.
What I do does not translate to everybody the same way. There's different principles or guideposts, but they don't have the same energy, the same background, the same issues, opportunities that I did. So what you're trying to do is say, look, if there's a higher propensity, if you think this way or do these actions, you'll be more successful. You have to do it. I can't be there every day going rah rah in your back corner or checking in up on you.
I know it's exhausting. You've got to learn your own skills.
Yeah.
And I understand the rah rah. I understand that needing that once in a while. Like I told people, I don't need a lot. Maybe just a thumbs up when I did a public speaking.
Yep.
Good. And moving on. Right. Did I do everything perfect? No. But they were good. Got what you got it across. Okay. Let's talk about your book. Well, a book that's been out that kind of got buried with COVID.
It got lost.
The Trailblazers, and you interviewed like 12 people, right, in the book?
Yeah, it was a culmination of over 100 plus interviews that narrowed it down to about 12. That we said these 12 to me are worth sharing their stories.
Okay, and on this in this book, you talk about many principles to help businesses, right?
Yeah.
But so let's talk about that. I wanted to get into that. And there was the 7 keys that, key characteristics of all of these trailblazers had.
Yeah.
Share with why they got chosen, because a lot of people. So that must have been. If I was your friend, you didn't pick me. Why didn't you pick me?
It was hard. It was really difficult because there were so many good interviews. I want
What were you looking for?
I think the key thing is, what are some things you can teach us from two sides of life, the adversity and the tough times? What are the lessons out of that, the gold? And then when you're successful, what are the lessons from that? And with this, a thing I want to throw out to all the viewers around the world is this. Everyone to me has trailblazer traits. So I'm looking, what are the traits that you and I can model? If I'm a podcaster, I'm doing a side hustle, I'm a college student, I'm a retiree, maybe I'm in my Gen Xer like me who's in their 50s.
All right, stop right there. Trailblazers. Is that like somebody that would have went out west? Somebody would have got on a ship and went to the New World? Maybe they're going to be the people like, take me to Mars and let's call in it.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, the definition's in the beginning of the book, but the best thing I can translate is these are leaders that do things very differently. They're not often accepted right away. Sometimes they're vilified. They're looked at as the troublemaker, the devil. Several of them, we can hit on a few of them, are looked at like there's no way, and then 10, 20, 30 years later, they're like, oh, they're legendary. But they were not received well, almost like they're out of time. Quick example, 2007. I went to a conference called Book Expo. Jeff Bezos was there, the founder of Amazon. Now, Amazon was nowhere near as big as a household name back then, but that day in LA, he was there to talk about Kindle. So he had a tablet, and he talked about digital books, the books that would be read on a tablet. Now it's built into our phones, okay? So now pretty much everyone has Kindle on their phone.
Right.
But he was the one that was talking about disrupting the entire publishing, the paper and ink industry, and say, hey, we're going to move more digital. And to watch his talk, I met him briefly before he went on stage, and to watch a product launch of that level, it was like watching the late Steve Jobs launch a new Apple product. There was like 800 people in the room, a lot of people from the media around the world were watching him, and I felt like Forrest Gump, like I was in this room, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm watching history be made.
Yeah, exactly.
Little did I know 13 years later when the pandemic hit, his company would just boom and thrive because everyone went to online shopping, that he moved from just bookstores to now everything is on Amazon. So he said something at the end of his talk in LA that I open a lot of my Trailblazer talks with. He said, sometimes you have to be willing to be misunderstood.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to be misunderstood, especially now. And a couple things I want to throw out amongst the Trailblazers is that they're very good communicators. They keep adapting. And several of the traits that we'll talk about, one of them in particular is persistence. They just don't give up. They burn the boats. They've gone through more adversity than you can imagine. And I love to learn their stories because it not only inspires me, but it reminds me that, hey, when I'm having a tough day, I'm not always positive. Ask my kids or my girlfriend. I mean, I have my off days. I'm human. And I think what's happened in the world of social media and influencers, they don't show the human side.
No.
Like I talk about my failures, not to get sympathy or to live in that spot where I came from, but it's a lot of learning and progression. I'm a former compulsive gambler. I've been bankrupt before. I've been through a couple divorces. Wouldn't recommend it. I'm not proud of it, but it's part of my story. And that's who I used to be. So a lot of people are curious, like, why do you talk about that? Well, the story's incomplete. You want authenticity? Then share it.
Yeah.
Everyone online wants to talk about the private jet and the fake house they own. I'm not saying all, but a lot of these influencers are full of crap.
Well, you probably
They're
seen
full of
that.
it.
A lot of them are gone now that were huge. Not huge. They were taking up space.
Correct.
And then they just, you were around way before, they had, and all of a sudden it took off, and now you see that you don't see these people anymore,
Yeah.
or they're gone, or they just don't have the influence because they had to go through a difficult time.
Yeah.
You were able to pivot and do that. But on Trailblazers, I wanted to ask you, since you wrote the book, what do you think is still relevant today that you see this is true and true? This is how I got back on the thing.
It's a great question. 2 of the 7 characteristics really jump out. The first one is persistence. You've got to just, even on days you don't feel like doing it, you got to do it. I mean, I fly out tomorrow. I came home from this interview for about a day and a half. We get right back on the plane. And a big part of the reason to come home was to be on the show. It's like you made the commitment, you made the date, you get your butt back to Michigan, you tape, and then tomorrow you're up at 4 a.m. to be on an airplane to go to Arizona for an event. So it's persistence. It's when you feel like some days, I don't feel like showing up, you show up. And that consistency is a draw. It's attractive because so many people, well, you make these assumptions. I see it, Pamela. I travel. I watch, people are flaking out more than ever. And if you are somewhat consistent and persistent and keep showing up, you have a huge advantage because eventually people go, hire him. He just keeps showing up. Or we need to bring this guy in because he keeps mailing us stuff. He has a new idea. He's got a fresh perspective. You don't quit on the first no.
Yeah.
The second key thing on the book is intense curiosity. We have to be.
Right.
I mean, you can't sit back and just, I'm going to let my business roll for 10, 20 years. It's always been that way. It's why we've always done it. The industry is changing so fast because of AI, because of the internet. The world's gotten much smaller. There's no more just, hey, it's just West Michigan where we're taping. People from all over the world can compete back and forth and in and out. So that curiosity like a child, even on days you're tired, you watch the podcast, you read a few pages of a book, you learn a new skill set. And it also keeps life more engaging.
Yeah.
Instead of checking out, I don't know how people get bored. There's so much going on. If you think about it, amount of information,
There could
it can be overwhelming.
overload.
Exactly.
Yeah, do you think that?
Absolutely. I mean, there are days I just go, I'm going to hike for 6 hours.
Yeah, I see you
I
out
go
there.
dark.
Like, yeah.
I deliberately schedule breaks from the matrix or from the world of being always looking at this thing and always having it coming at me. I shut it off. I'm the human. I'm in control. Something that is controversial I've said the last few months is, AI is a great tool, but the jury's still out. People get all worried like it's going to take everything over. It could, but remember who made it. The human soul created the technology. We run the machine. It shouldn't be the other way around. And people get all freaked out. I'm like, well, it's also going to make new innovations and industries arise that we didn't see because things will be freed up.
Well, and
So.
I'm part of, I've just started out, I've been using AI for some time, and I really do like it. And let's talk about real quickly, before we wrap it up, you have an event that's not going to be until September, is that correct?
Well,
October?
actually, November.
November.
We moved it to November.
But you are going to have an AI expert on
Correct.
there, somebody that we're friends with, Jonathan Mast, and I've had him on my show twice. It has already just helped me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about people out there. You're out there all the time with businesses. What are their thoughts? They're using it. They're not using it. I know you said they're kind of fearful, but there are some people that have really jumped into it.
Yeah.
With the memes, I love the memes.
Yeah.
And that's the new thing that's come out, right?
Yep. There's always the early adopters. Jonathan's brilliant. He'll be at the event. And I've talked to him a few weeks ago, and he's even stunned how massively popular and busy he is. So I think I'd be remiss, and it's a disservice to my clients to not bring them into new trend lines, and to say, question it though. Doesn't mean you have to drop everything and follow the shiny object. It's so new. Be interesting to watch this interview 10 years from now.
Yeah.
To see what's still relevant and what's changed. But
That's
even
true.
10 years seems like 100 years in the digital world. Everything's so like real-time, fast, sped up, and overwhelmed, as you and I have talked about. But I think I don't bring a skepticism to it. I bring a fact that says, look, I've seen these dot-com bubbles, the bursts, the technology evolve, and I worry about the fact that it's going to get so distracting people aren't going to do work. They're going to think, I can just have AI do it all.
Right.
That's called plagiarism. And I'm surprised more law firms don't bring me in hand to talk about it because there's so much non-thinking that goes on.
Businesses are reluctant to use it. I heard that, and a few people are like, until we can figure out this we don't want to be sued.
Yeah.
And to use it, but let's not. And they're really worried on that.
And it's a natural concern. I think the big thing is don't wait too long. I mean, someone says, well, I don't have time to figure out, okay, how much do you spend on social media? Well, maybe a few hours a day. then take a half hour and watch a YouTube video or study a course on AI. It doesn't have to be like you have to jump all in, but to be naive to it right now is not smart. I sat last fall in Wisconsin and watched another presenter after me in front of like 150 chamber execs. I was blown away how good he was about what AI is going to change. And he had more of the big picture because he works with a lot of the big corporations, and he was good. Jonathan's phenomenal. I want him in Grand Rapids because he's more of a small business entrepreneurial, and that's most of our audience.
Is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to say before we wrap this up? Because I'm going to have you on for this. We're going to continue this on, but we're going to be talking about different topics because we have a lot to talk about. We can't put it in 25 minutes. But anything else from the book? Because I found the book interesting, and I love some of the people in it. But you did share what's the same today as it was. Anything else?
I think the thing to take it home is thank you again for allowing me to bring it back because it's becoming really hot again. That topic, what's old is new again. And leadership, it's my contribution to it. I mean, there's thousands of books on leadership. From the great Greek writers, the Stoics, all the way to the John Maxwells, to the Mel Robbins now that are teaching leadership to their fashion. That's my lens on it. I'm looking for patterns. What are patterns that work pre-AI, during the beginning of AI, and post-AI? What human threads can we learn from? And my cautionary thing, and really I say push or challenge to leaders watching this is step up and deliver, okay? Be honest. I know it's not easy. And if you make a mistake, admit it, find a vision, and remind people constantly the vision of where you're going to take them because they're like, where are we going? And those leaders that clearly communicate it over and over and over again, why people want to work for them, that want to join them because there's a goal. If you don't have a goal, people don't know where they're going, they're going to leave.
Well, and I do. There's golden nuggets in here from people that they've passed. They're not with us anymore. But I think today, and we talked about this, is the trust issue. And I think today we see a lot of people out there on social media with they're the shiny coin. It gets lots of attention, but are they truly a leader? Just because the image makes them, but did they really lead an organization, a business, and the people within it up? Where people will turn around and say, yeah, I was a nobody, and he brought me, and he taught, or she. Do you understand?
And have staying power. I think the key thing is staying power. What we're pushing, my coaches are teaching me that, okay, this is my 20th year self-employed. I've been around and seen a lot of crazy things, good and bad. So sell your wisdom, your depth, not surface. Great, you got 1 million views in a video. Are you around 10 years from now making money from it, or did you just have 1 million views? Are you going to live off of what happened, a one-time event, or did you have sustained success? Not just short-term blip, because the attention span's 8 seconds now. Maybe we'll go in that interview and we'll talk about that, but the attention spans are gone.
All right. Now, where can they reach you? Where can they get the
your
books? You
Well,
have another one
friend.
coming out. What do you have, 9, 10?
We're at 10 and we're working on 11, so it's never ending. Amazon is a great place to find the book Trailblazers. MindCaptureGroup.com is my main site. So there's some that we self-publish, some that we go with New York, but there's always ways to find it, but Amazon's probably the easiest.
And then where can the people go to book Toni Rubleski for an event?
Thank you for that plug. MindCaptureGroup.com is easier. If you key in my name, Toni Rubleski, on Facebook, Instagram, you can find me.
He's got a great assistant. She'll get right back to you. Maybe Toni will. I'll send this to my. I appreciate that. Yeah, you do have a great team. All right, we want to thank Toni Rubleski for being here today. We are going to go.
It was a pleasure, my friend.
You know what? We love having you every year because you have so much of information, knowledge, where you've been, what's going on, what's the trends that I just love learning from. All right, we're going to be going into part 2, and this is going to be all about. We're going to go a little dive into leadership, what's going on with the youth men today. I told Toni we're going to be talking about that, networking, and of course our favorite subject is Toastmasters, how to build leaders in public speaking, which Toni started off with for all you my Toastmaster friends out there, and then look where he is today. All right, this is Pamela Kine from Grand Tap Media. We will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.